Present. All right, so. All right, so here's my screen. So what I usually do is I give my students a newsletter, and then I give them a section that says to do today. So then they just click on the Nearpod lesson, and I give them the code. So the code for this class is Reckitt. And so I'll walk you guys through what the students see first, and then I'll show you guys how to create a lesson and then do questions. So to join the session, they just type in their names. I've been giving them like a quick little question to do at the beginning of every lesson. And so this one is, what is your favorite food? So this is kind of like a discussion board. So all students see everyone's post. So if I want to put sushi, I can then just add pictures. I can Google image. They have an option. So it's a little fun thing that I like to do at the beginning of every lesson. So here they'll post it. They can like other people's posts. So it's just something interactive and fun for them to do. Then the lesson progresses. I provide an objective. So this part is the absolute best part that I really like for my L students. So anything that's written in English, there's this icon on the top right corner that I can click on. And for students who want things read out loud, you can have it read out loud. You can click
Objective.
play.
Students will be able to review parts of a chemical equation and define collision theory.
I know for more on an English component, I don't really use it, but you can change up here. You can change, like, if you want the nouns to be colored, verbs, adjectives, so you can turn these on, turn them off. If you want syllables to be shown, it breaks it up. I know that's key on English classes. And then most importantly, you can change the language. So right now I can translate a word to Spanish. So if I click on students, it shows me the English word and then the Spanish word, and then other words provide pictures. So here, if I click on parts, I have the English and then the Spanish, and then it shows pictures of what a part is for students who might be confused with that. I can also, by going back to this top right corner, change the whole document to be in Spanish, and it can also be read out loud to them.
Objetivo. Los estudiantes podrán revisar partes de una.
And it has a whole bunch of different languages. So obviously Spanish and Portuguese, but there's a list of other languages. I think this section of Nearpod is partnered with Google. So whatever Google language has in languages, Nearpod has as well. So that's anything in English. Students can change the language, and then continuing on. So it's just slides. Again, anything in English, here's this icon, they can change it. But then I have questions. So this is a draw it. It says circle the reactant. So there's pens. They can change the color. They can circle. And it says square the product. So then you square. So they can write on this. And so on. You can also add text. So here's a text box. So you can type in it. So what I usually do is I add a picture in the background. And so I've screenshotted and saved this question. I uploaded it as a background, and then students can write on it and type on it. You can also add pictures. So if you Google image something and it'll appear on this. So I've done from creating models, I've provided tables and say complete the table. images, color this section in, and so on. Students submit it and then move on to the next part. So here, this is just a slide that says fill in the blank for the next one. So another opportunities for them to fill in like blanks. You give them words, they can drag them in, and then once they're done, they check, tells them you're correct. My students really enjoyed this part, the time to climb. So it's just like kind of like Kahoot. So you can pick a character, start, there's music, and then it's just quiz questions. Right, so here, so it's wrong, correct answer. And it kind of gets them climbing. It makes it fun for them. And then once you finish all the questions, you reach the top, and it's, so my students really liked this. They thought it was something fun, different, so it's not like boring and the same thing all over again. And you can time the questions. And then at the end, it just tells them you reached the top, and it's nice work. So that's something fun you can do. You can add GIFs or GIFs or however you want to pronounce it. You can add open-ended questions, so students can type into this and answer the question. You can add videos. So here, just add the link to a YouTube video. They play it, and then I provide questions afterwards. So there's quiz here. There's 2 questions, true, false. They select one. If they go on to the next question and they didn't select an answer and then submit, it stops them and tells them to review your answers. You haven't answered all of the question. So it's reminds students to answer all the questions, and then it gives you your data. This is how many you got correct. These are how many you got wrong. And some more fill in the blanks. And then at the end of all my lessons, I've been providing my students a little brain break, just because I've gotten a lot of them telling me that they're stressed. So here is a picture, and I let them like draw it in. But also the last thing that I want to show you guys on the student view is they can take notes. So if they go here, there's this notebook icon on the right side. If you want them to be saved to Google Drive, you just pick your account. So I have a million accounts here. And then it shows you a notes view. So allow. And it saves it to your Google Drive. So here you can type anything for any slide. If I can open Navigator if I want to go back to this slide and then take notes on here. So reactions and so on. And then at the end, students, everything's just saved automatically. So if they reach the end, they can start all over if they want to do a new one. And then that's it for the lesson. Yeah, so let's see, any questions so far? Yeah, so it definitely can be used for math. So I've been using it for science. It's basically just an interactive lesson. So instead of just doing Google Slides and then a Google form for them to answer questions, it's all embedded in one software. So as you saw here, I have a lesson, and I have questions and videos, I have images, and it's very interactive, and then you get all this data at the end. So now I'll walk you guys through how to create this lesson. They do not have to sign up for their own account. So as I showed before, you just give them the link to the student. So here, the link to the student account. So it's just nearpod.com/student, and the code to your lesson. They join, and that's all they need. So that's why I've been using it. You don't need Google accounts. It's very easy to join. So now on your account, this is what your home will look like. So the first and easiest way to create a lesson is here on the left-hand side, you have Nearpod Lesson Library. So right now, Danbury School District, we have the gold version. So we have access to a lot, but the gold version will be up until May 30th. So some of these will not be accessible after that, but you can still use Nearpod. It's just their library won't be accessible to you after May 30th unless you pay to upgrade. So here you can search for any lesson. So for me, my next lesson is equilibrium. So I'll type in equilibrium, and it'll show me all the lessons that have been verified by Nearpod. And I can click on one, I can preview the lesson and say, okay, I like this. I'm gonna either use it, or I like different parts of this. I wanna keep this and just add on to it. So this is someone else's lesson that has been verified by Nearpod and added to their library. So if I like it, I'll just click on add to my library down here, and it'll be added to my library. So if I go back to my library, here I have the lesson that I just added, and I can edit it. And then I can either edit this one that I have in my library or make a copy. And then it takes me in, and I can take away stuff that I don't like and then add stuff. So here, if I don't want my students to see this teacher, I can delete the slide. I can add more content, but basically you can use other people's lessons that they have already created, and they have anything from K to 12 and any subject: math, science, social studies, English. And then you can add slides. So the part that I really, really like about Nearpod is that you can add content. You can create your own slides on there. They have flow vocabulary videos you can add. You can do Nearpod 3D. So they have all these cool 3D models. So if I do the full body and add that in, kids can look at this. So here it is at the bottom. So this is the preview of it. So when the students see this, they can rotate, they can zoom in, they have different 3D videos. I can zoom in to look at different parts and so on. So that's one cool feature of Nearpod. If you go back to add slide and content, there's you can add PhET simulations for science teachers. You can do field trips. So there's these Nearpod VR. You can pick a location and they can do like the 3D view of different locations. You can add the Desmos graphing calculator, videos, sway, slideshow. So these are just content you can add. If there's a specific website you want to add, you just go to add web content and you just type in the URL or copy and paste the URL. And then the interactive part is this add activity. So they have the time to climb. So that's like the Kahoot version for Nearpod. You can add open-ended question matching pairs. So if you have a vocab word and a picture and you want them to match like a picture to a word, that would be your matching pairs. You can add quiz, Flipgrid videos, draw it. So how I showed you guys, draw it. You can also change the background. And then there's the collaborate. So that's where all students see everyone's response. You have polls, fill in the blanks, and memory tests. So those are all the different components that you can add using Nearpod. Another way you can create a Nearpod lesson is by just creating a blank one. So lesson in Nearpod. It'll just take you to a blank slate. And then if you add a slide, it shows you their themes. You can add different backgrounds or here backgrounds. So what I've been doing to make them a little bit fun, I've been doing blue background. And then just pick something and you change the background of it. You can change the color. So here on the text, you can change the color. Here, you just type it in. And then in the center, you can either make it a text, a video, image, a GIF, or you can upload something from your own computer. You can also, if you have like a PowerPoint lesson in PowerPoint, so here I've made some lessons using PowerPoint just because I've had them before from previous years. You can just upload those and it makes them into slides from your own computer and it populates into there. And then the other way you can create a lesson is just creating something on Google Slides. So here I started this on Google Slides. You can add on Nearpod as an extension. So if you don't know how to add it on, you just go to get add-ons and you type in Nearpod and then you add Nearpod as an extension. So you can, Pear Deck is also another version of Nearpod. They're like each other's competitors. I've just been using Nearpod because I've already had lessons saved in there. But if you go to the add-ons, you open Nearpod, and then you can just add anything that you can do on the Nearpod website directly to this slide. And so also you can do audio. So if you have a slide and you want to speak over it to explain it, you can add an audio file. So you can do all of this directly through Google Slides. And then once you're done, you click down here on Save and go to Nearpod. So I've been using the Google Slides for my honors classes just because the only issue with creating a Google Slides and then saving it to Nearpod is you can only edit in Google Slides. You cannot edit it like in how I showed you if we just created a Nearpod lesson. And so if you have a presentation or a lesson that you created through Google Slides, you cannot use the translating icon that I showed you earlier because it's just making these Google Slides as images, and the only part that's interactive is the add-ons you do for Nearpod. So if it's something that you want to use for ELs, so for my bilingual classes, I've been just creating the lessons straight into Nearpod and then saving them. Yeah, and then so the last thing that I want to show you guys is the professional development component. So down here on your home screen, there's different types of professional development slides. So if you want to look, so they have also already pre-made lessons for English learners, but they also have like a social emotional learning pre-made lessons or PowerPoint PD versions for teachers. So if you want to learn about social emotional learning in digital life or an action for K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, you can add that in. The only thing is, how I mentioned before, we have the upgraded version till May 30th. So if you, so these will not appear after May 30th. However, one thing you can do, right? So if you want to look into developing empathy, but you probably won't get to it by May 30th, you can export it as a PDF and add it to your Google Drive, and it saves it as a PDF and you can come back to it. So I know one of these weekends, I'm going to just go through a whole bunch of these and just save them as PDFs so that I can refer back to them. Look at them later on, just because I'm not sure if we'll have them paid for or for Nearpod paid for, or if I'll have ability to access this, because once you are no longer in their upgraded version, you don't have access to any of this. And then just to show, so I'll go to my honors chemistry folder to show you the reports. You can go here, you can view the reports, and then it shows you, so I had 42 students for this. It shows you the participation. So the first part is just participation. So here it tells you how many students completed. So open-ended questions was 100% complete, and then the draw was 100% complete. If I want to look at the open-ended question, I click on them. And so one of the questions I asked is, why do you think we add salt to roads when it snows? And I can see everyone's response. For the draw it, because I had draw it, and these were the tables, so I can see what students wrote in the tables. And then when I didn't give a quiz on this one, but when you have a quiz, it tells you how the percentage of students who got it right, who got it wrong, and what they picked and so on. So you can see everyone's data, and you can download it also as into your Google Drive. So I'm gonna go back and see any questions. So will this presentation be available so I can share? Yeah, so I've been recording it, and it will be available. Also, if you're interested, I'm going to put this into the chat area. So for you guys to have access to the gold, I need to add people individually, but it's easier if I have it all in a form and just copy and paste it. And in this form, I'll have this video, there's a YouTube channel, there's a Facebook group, and then my email if you have any other questions. So I'll put this into the chat area, and you guys can fill that out. The next question was, how reliable is the translation? So it's really, it's the Google translation. So anything, if you've used Google Translate, they're partnered with Google. So I speak Spanish, so whenever I see the translated, I haven't seen any issues with it. So I think it's pretty reliable. So if you wanna, the only thing is that you working with L students, I've been making screencast videos to show them, like, this is how you get to this translation aspect of a Nearpod, just because they won't know how to get to it. Then Pear Deck is free though, right? It seems this extension is great until the subscription stops. Yeah, so there's different components that are free. So this translation part, I'm pretty sure it's free if you have the basic version. The only part that is not free, so I didn't really show you. So let's see. Okay, so if I go back to my home, so if you haven't used Nearpod or Pear Deck, the way that you would, so here, once you have a lesson saved, you can either do a student paste, and that's where you get the code, and you can extend the due date, minimize it, and they get that code. Or you can do a live lesson. So this is teacher paste. Students will get the code, and then you can control it. Once the upgraded version's over, you only have the live version. You don't have the student paste. But I've used this in my own classroom when we were actually in the classroom. So my small group was a Nearpod lesson, and then my other groups were doing other stuff. So that's the only thing with Pear Deck and Nearpod is that once we don't have the upgraded version, there's a few limitations. I know for Nearpod, one of the limitations is that the live versus the student paced. So once we have the basic version, it will only be live and you won't be able to do student paced. But I'm pretty sure the translation is still there. Any other questions, other things you want me to show you? I think that's pretty much it on the Nearpod. Again, for right now, it's been great just because of the upgraded version, and a lot of my L students have been successful with it. But I'm not sure what it's going to look like once the upgraded version is no longer there. But it's also been great because my L students are struggling a lot with the logistics of this whole online learning. So just being able to give them one thing and everything is in that lesson has been very helpful for them. And my honors students have been really enjoying with the interactive part of it. So if you're interested, just make sure you fill out that Google form that I have on the Nearpod that I copied and pasted on the chat, so I can add you on to it. And I will be sharing the recording of this. And then if you know other people who would be interested, just you can share the form with them as well. Any other questions? No questions? All right. So you guys are welcome. I hope this really did help, and I'll just stick around a little bit just because I know once I leave this meeting, I think the chat will disappear, so that you can have access to this Google form, and I'll send it also to Frank, make sure that he has it. I'll stop recording.